We are in Genesis 44 and 45 tonight. Read some news while we wait for everyone. Old Jimmy Carter, man. Everybody's so mad about Jimmy Carter. As a president, I think not happy people. Thomas Becker murdered at Church of Ireland. What? So much war lately on the Christian side. Good God. I don't want anything to do with any of this. If you're watching this later, we do a number of these streams every week. If you join Discord, there's a link pinned in the live chat. There's a link in the description of all the videos. We do 3 of these a week. And then now we started doing game night. But when you get in Discord, there's an events page. And then you can see right now, live Bible study canon. Tuesday, we do a live topic discussion. Everybody votes on a topic. And then that's what we do. So this week, what was it? Do miracles still happen? That is what won. So I put that together over the weekend. And we'll talk about that on Tuesday. Then on Thursday, we do something extra canonical. So something outside of your normal Bible. We read a Mesopotamian text the past 3-4 weeks, and now we're reading the Book of Giants, which has been difficult, but very interesting. And then Saturday, we're doing game night, where you log in on your phone and you're able to actually play games. And that's been funny, to say the least. But the Discord, great place to be, great people, super smart, 1,000 times too smart for me to comprehend. So constantly learning and feeling inadequate, which is a great place to be. The Tuesday topic discussion happens on my personal YouTube at Tattoo Theist. Everything else, the Bible studies, the extra canonical text, all the straight up studies are on at Live Bible Study, which is a newer channel. So if you join Discord, the events page has a link to each one for that specific day. So you can just click the link and then you know you're in the right place. Let's see. Oh no, what is that? David, I'm so happy to be here with all you to deep dive his word. I love each one of you. We love you, man. You're very positive. You and Pastora, man, are like so positive. It's very needed. It's very nice. It's very nice. I appreciate it. Watching now. Mentioned you and Ghost in my latest YouTube video. If you're in Discord, right? Send us a link over there. I would like to watch that. For sure. Is it just you lighting us up? Is that what's happening? I would like to watch that. I guess if it's nice, I would like to watch it too. Either way, I suppose I would like to watch it. So get us a link in Discord. I'll watch it when we get off today. Now I'm very curious. Guess 5. Oh man. God, I thought politics would settle down. They have not. It has not. Titled Elon Musk is a Nephilim. Oh, now I really want to watch this. Hold on, I'm going to look it up right now. You've got me very curious at this point. Let's see. Did you just post it? Because it is not coming up. There's a bunch of other stuff. Nothing from you. I don't see it. You got to leave us a link. If you can put it in the YouTube chat, I don't care. Go ahead. I don't know if they'll block it though. So if it doesn't allow you to put the link in the YouTube chat, put it on Discord. Just an off topic or something, and then tag us. Because I don't see it. So you obviously, like, YouTube hasn't picked it up and the algorithm or anything yet. Even I copied and pasted your title. And I'm not getting it. So give me a link another way. I'd love to watch it. All right, let's see. So Genesis 44 is where we're at. And then how many more weeks are we going to be? I think, what is it? 48. So at least three or 4 weeks left. And then after Genesis, let's see here. Yeah, we get into the good stuff next. Exodus and Leviticus are very raw data heavy. Numbers somewhat. Deuteronomy extremely. And then we get into the more storytelling, which will be interesting. +13 minutes long. Well, I listen to everything at least 2x speed. So it'll be 6.5 for me. I don't listen to anything anymore, I don't think, at like regular speed. It's too slow. It's too slow. All right, it's 4 after, so I'm gonna roll because I like to get in both chapters today if we can. We're still in weird holiday season. This week with New Year's, I don't think I'm changing anything though. Tuesday, we're still gonna do the topic discussion. Thursday, we're still gonna do our normal stuff. Yeah, I want to watch it. I'm curious. Very intrigued by the title. Clickbait works. I'll just say that. Clickbait is a productive way to get people to listen to what you're saying. Hey, Ruth. All right, so Joseph tests his brothers. Then he commanded the steward of his house, fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of the sack. Should sound familiar, because in 42, we had the same situation. So now he's repeating the trick, if you want to call it that, the ruse that he's doing. But this time he's going to make absolute sure that they get caught. David's got such good attitude. I love people with good attitudes because I don't always have one. And I like people with good energy because I don't always have it. So it's great to be around people like that. It's a very beautiful thing. So he's doing the same trick, same ruse. This time he's going to make sure they get caught. Verse 2, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his money for the grain. And he did as Joseph told him. A couple things here I want to read because I thought this was an interesting take. So the Hebrew term used for my cup in the beginning of 2, Gavia, Gavia, is likely borrowed from the Egyptian language. Though it appears elsewhere, it appears in Jeremiah 35, Exodus 25, 33, 34, 37, and 19. It appears to be taken from the Egyptian language, which is just an interesting thing to look at and then ponder about. Not the only time. We've talked about at least one other time, and there are plenty more examples of that. And then for the silver cup, references to silver occur repeatedly in the Joseph story. In 37, it showed up as well. In this context, direct context, the reference could convey the irony of the situation. Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery for 20 pieces of silver in chapter 37. Now Joseph uses a silver object to test them and drive them into a state of panic, which is valid irony and kind of funny. In the mouth of the sack of the youngest. So put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest. The youngest would be Benjamin. So the plan is targeting Benjamin, which would heighten the ensuing panic of the brothers that the youngest is being targeted. Verse 3, as soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away with their donkeys. They had gone only a short distance from the city. Now Joseph said to his steward, up, follow after the man, and when you overtake them, say to them, why have you repaid evil for good? It is not from this that my Lord drinks, and by this that he practices divination. You have done evil in doing this. The narrative never states explicitly that Joseph practiced divination. But later in this chapter, Joseph kind of suggests it in 15. Divination would often involve determining the will of God, of a deity, by using an object, something, like the cup in this scenario. When he overtook them, he spoke to them these words. They said to him, why does my Lord speak such words as these? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Behold, the money that we found in the mouths of our sacks we brought back to you from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? Whichever of your servants is found with it shall die, and also will be my Lord's servants. Neither is from Logos. Neither Old Testament law nor known Egyptian legal material require the death penalty for property crimes of this type, of this nature. Jacob made a similar rhetorical assertion that was designed to establish his innocence when Laban accused him of theft in chapter 31. That's interesting. That neither Old Testament law nor known Egyptian legal material would require the death penalty for this type of crime. That's interesting context. The fact also that Jacob made a similar rhetorical assertion that was designed to establish his innocence when he was accused of theft is equally interesting for greater context. He said, let it be as you say. He who is found with it shall be my servant, and the rest of you shall be innocent. Then each man quickly lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack. And he searched, beginning with the oldest, with the eldest, and ending with the youngest. Contextually important because of what we know about the story as the reader. That it was basically set up for Benjamin, the youngest, to be implicated in the crime that was actually a ruse. The steward is who's going through all of this. So the steward is aware of what's going on in the background. He's aware of the trick, the ruse. So he does not immediately go for the youngest. He doesn't go for where he knows that it is. He goes from the furthest away from what the reality is. He goes to the oldest rather than the youngest. Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. That's an important verse to not skip. So after starting with the oldest and going to the youngest, the cup was eventually found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes after they were found out, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. Tearing of the clothes, just always going to point out, super common thing. I feel like everybody knows this by now, but it would be remiss of me to not bring it up every time. This is this is mourning. This is anguish. When somebody would die, this would be one of the most common things that we read in the Bible about how they would mourn the death of somebody. But also just general anguish. And in some contexts, just people freaking out will sometimes do the same thing. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there. They fell before him to the ground. Joseph said to them, "What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination?" And that is 15, is when Joseph is kind of insinuating the divination thing from the prior verse. He could be referring to his prophetic gift regarding dreams and his ability to interpret them. Could be some other form of divination. There's no clarity in the text. In this context, could be something having to do with the cup that was referenced in verse 2 for divination, but it's just not clear. There's no direct give, so you kind of have to contextually assume, in my opinion. And Judah said, "What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servant, both we and he also, in whose hand the cup has been found." A couple of things I want to read. Is that why the veil in the temple was torn after Jesus was crucified? Give me more. Give me more. Like, give me the key point. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I think that's an interesting point, though. I don't know. I guess it could be. If it seemed, without actually like sitting and looking at any, I feel like it would be more than that, though. But that's an interesting point, for sure. Something I've not ever thought about. It's an interesting point. Yeah, I don't know. I want to think about that. That's an interesting point. I honestly would wonder what some of the like more popular, or what are the most popular theories of the tearing of the veil. I don't really know. I've never really thought about the symbolic nature of it, to be completely
I'm
honest.
gonna look into it.
Yeah, please do, because now I'm curious. I've never really thought about it. That's a great point and a great question. I've been having so many dreams lately. Strange dreams. What do you mean? Like what? I'd be curious to hear a few. My wife is all about the dream thing. She's a big dream person. I am a total cynic about dreams, which I'm probably in the minority. Okay, so a couple of things though in 16. When Judah was talking, God has found out the guilt of your servants. I want to read this. Judah takes the lead in their defense, as he had vowed to accept responsibility for Benjamin. If you remember, that was a big thing from 43, last, I guess, 2 weeks ago now, was that he really wanted to accept and take all of the responsibility for Benjamin, because they were kind of having the push and the pull about what to do with him. His plea, the longest speech in the book of Genesis, interesting, is eloquent yet properly deferential. It reminds Joseph of the circumstances that led to their return with Benjamin, namely the advanced age of their father, which is also a big deal. God has found the guilt of your servants, may refer to their collective guilt for stealing the divination cup, or possibly more so to their heinous crime against Joseph long ago when they sold him into slavery. They apparently harbor guilt for the way they mistreated their brother. I don't know if it's apparent, but there's definitely indications that guilt is present. But I personally, I don't see it as an apparent guilt. I think there's definitely some fear sprinkled in there. I think Reuben may feel a lot of guilt from earlier context, but the rest, I don't believe it's all that clear. We no longer need a priest to intercede. I could not agree with that more. Yeah, 100% for sure. We'll post in the comment section, not live chat. Good call. Yeah, do that. I'll definitely go read it. You could also post it in Discord, because then I would definitely see it. 17. Yeah, but he said, "Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my servant. But as for you, go up in peace to your father." So Joseph makes Benjamin the specific target for the presumed punishment, knowing, big picture, that Joseph had set the whole thing up specifically for Benjamin to be the one. Yeah, Leon, if you put it in Discord, I'm sure a bunch of people would read it. It's always interesting to read people's dreams. Dreams are a very interesting thing. Then Judah went up to him and said, "O my lord, please let your servant speak a word in my lord's ear, and let not your anger burn against your servant. For you are like Pharaoh himself. My Lord asked his servants, saying, have you a father or a brother? And we said to my Lord, we have a father, an old man, and a young brother, the child of his old age. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him. We said to my Lord, the boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. Then you said to your servants, this is the recapping of what had happened prior. Then you said to your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall not see my face again. When we went back to your servant, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And when our father said, go again, buy us a little food, we said, we cannot go down. If our younger brother goes with us, then we will go down. But for we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. This is all the context that you probably forgot because it was weeks ago. Then your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One left me, and I said, surely he has been torn to pieces. Speaking of Joseph. And I have never seen him since. If you take this one also from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs in evil to Sheol. Now therefore, as soon as I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, then, as his life is bound up in the boy's life, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die, and your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant, our father, with sorrow to Sheol. For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father all my life. Now, therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my Lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear I see the evil that would find my father. Judah makes an emotional appeal to Joseph. In some sense, like demonstrating to Joseph, in some sense, that they have changed or are trying to change. Because they're not performing the same type-ish behavior that they had done in the past regarding Joseph. They're being very protective of the boy. The evil that would find my father. I want to read this. The Hebrew word used here, ra, can refer to wickedness and moral evil, but it also means calamity or tragedy. Judah is concerned that the loss of Benjamin would bring calamity to his and Joseph's father. Joseph believes him. Everybody wants your dreams, bro. Drop the dreams. Go drop the dreams. Joseph provides for his brothers and family. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, make everyone go from me. No one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. So the final breakdown. Joseph is emotionally distraught at this point. In Genesis 42 and then in Genesis 43, we had other emotional moments from Joseph. And now he's reaching kind of the tipping point where he is no longer capable or able, seemingly, to continue to do the ruse, to hide the identity, his identity, from the brothers. So it's all kind of coming undone. And he wept aloud so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. Pharaoh and his household likely heard about the incident and then its outcome later. Probably not literally in the moment. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. Sorry, I just want to see something real quick. Verse 4. So Joseph said to his brothers, come near me, please. And they came near. And he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. Come near to me. The Hebrew nagash, N-A-G-A-S-H, meaning to come close, was used earlier to describe the brothers as they approached Joseph in 43 and then verse 18 out of 44 that we were just in. In each scene, the verb is used. Joseph does not approach them. They approach Joseph. Here, Joseph seeks to calm and reassure them. So kind of showing different contextual uses of the term, which is just interesting. 6. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. So it's an acknowledgement. The acknowledgement of the detail would have been a surprise to the brothers, contextually. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. Yeah, I want to read this too. So in context, or in relation to verse 7, and God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. Joseph is repeating the belief that all has happened in accordance with God's will, essentially, that it's all God's work being done. The phrase connects what happened to Joseph to the preservation of the family of promise, Jacob, or Israel, and his sons, who would become the 12 tribes of Israel. So you have a little bit of interconnection there, which is also just kind of interesting. I will see what I can do to set up Discord. I'm already blocked on X, Facebook. I don't know what the rest of that is. Timeline cleanse, Dustin Nemos. I don't know what that is. I know Discord, all you need is an email. Well, actually, no. I think you have to have your phone verified to join our server. As long as you don't do anything crazy, no one's going to report you, at least with us. I say that very specifically how I said it, though. If you don't do anything crazy. If you just have wild opinions, for the most part, probably, if you're communicating well, I think it's okay. But I don't know you that much, so no promises. But so far, I think we've had at least relatively nice conversations. But then again, I haven't really been involved in them, so I don't know. Maybe I'm overspeaking. But I would love to read them. So I guess if you can't get on Discord and you put them in the comments of the video when the stream ends, if that's the best we got, cool. But I would like to read it. And I would like to get the link to that video too, because I'm curious about the Elon and the Nephilim thing. You have piqued my interest. I would like to see what that was all about. Verse 8. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and rulers over all the land of Egypt. So in Egyptian literature, I feel like we talked about this in 42 or 41, but the titles similar to this, the father to Pharaoh, are attributed to Egyptians, are usually not attributed to Egyptians other than those of like very high status. It's used for the Pharaoh's physical father normally, or possibly a tutor or like an educational, somebody with the status of an educator. And then sometimes, from what I found, a father-in-law. Those would be the normal titles. The title could also be used as an honorary title for someone who incurred special favor with the Pharaoh, which is the one that would obviously fit this context. That would be what describes Joseph. What's interesting, and it was like 40, somewhere between 40 and 42. I feel like we talked about it a little bit because that's when the title came in, if I'm remembering right. It's a really odd title. It's a really odd position for Joseph to have gotten. It wasn't a normal thing in Egyptian culture. It wasn't a normal thing in really any culture that I'm aware of in the ancient Near East. For a culture to welcome somebody not of their kind and then elevate them to such a high level was just kind of unheard of. It's not something we really see a lot. It's one of the things that makes the Joseph story so interesting. And it's one of the things I feel like we do not focus on or talk about. We talk about many other aspects of Joseph's story, but not so much like how wild it is, where the guy ended up and what he was leading and what his status was. Culturally, just super incredible. A total outlier. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, thus your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, and you and your children, and your children's children, and your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. Goshen, I think it's Goshen, likely refers to the northeastern region of the Nile Delta. That's the best I could find. But I also found this, so I'm going to read it. The name of Goshen is considered Semitic, not Egyptian. The presence of other Goshens in the Old Testament confirm the terms used to describe places of rich soil. And they give examples of Joshua 10, 11, and 15. So all consolidated to one text, which isn't great corroboration, but at least there's some. While the exact location of Goshen is unknown, it can be approximately correlated with the eastern Nile Delta. The northernmost region of Egypt, where the Nile River divides into channels that feed into the Mediterranean Sea, would be where that is. It is one of the most fertile regions in Egypt, which then is why we connect it to Joshua 10, 11, and 15, because there are references to that, to those descriptors, essentially. Oh, you did? Okay. Right on. Well, wait, where did you post the link? In Discord? I'll look. I'll figure it out later. Cat said, hello, lovely little babes. Don't forget. I'm so glad you guys help with the YouTube stuff. I'm just terrible. Yeah, do YouTube stuff. The 7 of us that are here, do the YouTube stuff. And then remember, when I end the stream, then just throw an emoji or something in the comments. We had, after the Book of Giants, we got like 10 people. Just like, boom. I don't know what it is about the Book of Giants, but the algorithm really likes that stuff. They really like the Book of Giants. Those videos are have an astronomically higher reach than anything else we're doing, and I wish I wasn't YouTube ignorant. I wish I understood why. Because I don't feel like I'm doing anything different. I think it's just got to be the content. Snake him. All right, 11. So he's saying, bring everybody down. Bring my dad, all of you, come down to Egypt, where I am essentially hand of the king. There I will provide for you, for there are yet 5 years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have do not come to poverty. And now your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see. That is my mouth that speaks to you. Joseph is talking to the brothers in their native language. Now, that is my mouth that speaks to you. Because if you remember earlier, there was a disconnect with the language, because they didn't realize that he was understanding what they were saying. They thought he couldn't speak the native language of the brothers, when obviously he could. His ability to speak their language affirms that he is who he claims to be. That is my mouth that speaks to you. So now we know he's speaking in his native tongue, another form of confirmation that he is who he says he is. You must tell my father of all my honor in Egypt and of all that you have seen. Hurry and bring my father down here. Then he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. After that, his brothers talked with him. When the report was heard in Pharaoh's house, Joseph's brothers have come, it pleased Pharaoh and his servants. Obviously, meaning Joseph is allowed to do what he's doing in terms of bringing everybody down. Pharaoh is obviously okay with this. He approved it to move the family into Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this. Load your beasts and go back to the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households and come to me. And I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you shall eat the fat of the land, which is just a reference to the best of the best. They will live lavishly in Egypt. And you, Joseph, are commanded to say, do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. Have no concern for your goods, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. Essentially leaving them, or telling them to leave everything behind. Bring what is important, bring the people, bring some livestock probably, but specifically bring your wives, bring your kids, leave the rest, essentially. Move here, you'll have the best that Egypt has to offer. The sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the command of Pharaoh and gave them provisions for the journey. To each and all of them he gave a change of clothes, but to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver and 5 changes of clothes. Giving them a change of clothes is what happened in 37, when Jacob gave a new garment to Joseph, way back when in the story. The Hebrew word used here is not the same word used for Joseph's robe, but the connection is it's seemingly evident that there's a connection there, but different word was used. Joseph then is showing favor to Benjamin, who is, if you remember, Rachel's son, so the only full-blooded brother. So contextually important. To his father he sent as follows: 10 donkeys loaded with the good things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and provisions for his father on the journey. Then he sent his brothers away, and they departed. As they departed, he said to them, "Do not quarrel on the way." So they went up out of Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to their father Jacob. And they told him, "Joseph is still alive, and he is the ruler over all the land of Egypt." And his heart became numb, for he did not believe them. But when they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said to them, and when he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. And Israel said, "It is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." And that is the end of the beautiful story, the beautifully brutal story. In 24, do not quarrel on the way. Ragaz, R-A-G-A-Z, the Hebrew word used there, often means to tremble. So quarrel, to me, is kind of an interesting choice of translation. The statement may reflect, I'm reading this, the statement may reflect Joseph's desire for them to have a safe and uneventful journey. It may also indicate suspicion on the part of Joseph that the brothers will argue about their role in his past suffering and that their consequential guilt. Joseph desires neither of those things. I thought that was great commentary at it, because it's an interesting take and makes sense. But the translation to me is kind of odd. Do not quarrel on the way, or do not tremble on the way. Doesn't change much. But then let me grab this. So although Jacob would have likely asked, there is no indication here or elsewhere that Joseph or his brothers ever discussed with Jacob the story of how Joseph ended up in Egypt. This is context like we don't get. This is alluding to context that we don't get. We don't really get like what the drama. Like, what about the drama? What about what they did to Joseph? Dad? Like, does dad find out? How does this end? I feel it's like watching a TV show and then not getting to see the juicy ending of like what the heck happens. The depiction here is of a father who thinks only of seeing his son, long presumed dead. Once he recovers from the shock of learning that Joseph is not only alive, but at the apex of power in Egypt, Jacob does not hesitate to make the journey. But he probably would have asked. Jacob probably would have asked, what happened? What's going on? How is he alive? And we just don't get a lot of it. We get some of it as the story goes on, but not nearly enough, in my opinion. The woo attracts people. The woo of the giants, I assume. Once the chicken is in the oven, what? I'll grab a larger boy. It is a beautiful story. It is a beautiful story. It's a pretty messed up story, but it's a pretty beautiful story. I think from my calculations, we have probably 2 or 3 weeks left of Genesis. We still have a lot of time, actually. We could just free roll it. I just won't have notes. We could keep going if y'all want. I won't have notes prepared. So we can just kind of, free roll through it and see what's up. Otherwise, we can chat about something
I
else.
don't have anything either, Joe. Honestly, I'm not a huge expert on Genesis and these stories, so I'm enjoying just kind of going through it with you.
Okay, so should we wait so I can adequately put notes together for next week?
Yeah, I like your notes.
Okay, we'll do that then. Yeah, that's better because I like to have time to like make sure I look things up that are important and rather than just reading. And then I think 3 weeks, and then I think Exodus, and I can't wait to get into some of the law because that gets really interesting, and I feel like that's going to take us a long time.
I'm sure it'll be eventful
For sure, for sure.
in the comments if people join in.
Yeah, Exodus would be next. Yeah, I think so. I think so. The law is super interesting, and then there's a lot. There's a lot to go outside of the Bible for once it gets to that point. You get into the midrashes, and you get a lot more context on the law specifically, but then some of the surrounding stuff, and it gets pretty deep. You get into some of the oil stuff in Exodus. There's some of the more hot topic type things. It's fun stuff. What verses for next week? So we'd be in 46, the whole chapter, and then probably 47 too. So Genesis 46 and 47. And then 2 or 3 weeks and we're out of Genesis. So then we roll into Exodus because we're reading chronologically, not the order of the Bible. The order best they have of time. May need a rain check on the snake to the dome, y'all. The chicken is still bugging. What is going on with the snake? Did you promise to take a snake out or something? Oh, Joe gets a snake to the dome. Got it. Got it. The story adds weight to Romans 8. All things work to God's good. Yeah. I mean, it's a valid point. This would be a good example of that from the Old Testament, for sure. And there's a lot. There's quite a bit of that. But the people don't always have that perspective. But usually they get there by the end. Get yourself a Black's Law Dictionary to understand the legal law of scripture text. Black's Law, huh? Interesting. What? So why for Bible study? I guess. Why specifically for Bible study? I'm looking at it here, but I'm not fully. So Black's Law Dictionary is the most frequently used legal dictionary in the United States. Henry Black was the author of the first 2 editions of the dictionary. Why specifically for Bible study? It changed my whole life. Okay, well, I'll take your word for it and I'll look at it. But you got to explain to me a little bit, like, why for Bible study? I don't understand the connection. Because if we're looking up English words, I feel like we've already kind of failed, no? Because it wasn't written in English. I feel like you'd have to get a Hebrew Blacks or a Koine Greek Blacks. But I'd be curious to kind of hear why it's been so helpful for you. You again have piqued my interest. I say that if you don't hit the like button, I'll get a snaky out and toss him on your head. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. And then I said I'd do it even if they did. Oh, great. Great. Cat, we will take a snake dome rain check. Yeah, we'll have to. She's hard at work down there. Hard at work baking in the belly and hard at work baking in the kitchen. The greatest wifely things. You're catching on to terminology, David. Makes me so happy. Jesus God. Okay. Well, feel free to bail. I'm gonna hang out for a few because we're so early. Tuesday, I prepped for Tuesday today, so we're good to go. I need to close this poll actually, but we are doing Do Miracles Still Happen today? So I will make sure in the podcast topic thing, I put that up right now. And then anything you want to throw in, even like opinions that you just don't want to forget, or specific angles for the conversation to go. This is a huge conversation. I feel like this is one where we're not even going to brush the surface. So I have like 15 to 20 slides or something. It's very generalized. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I also don't expect that it's very busy because it's New Year's Eve, right? But I don't want to cancel anymore. So if it's just me and a couple of you or me on my own, I don't really care. I'd like to keep the habit rolling for anybody who's not going out on New Year's Eve. But it's a very, very broad topic.
I don't have a lot of stuff written on that, but I'm curious to know what everyone's idea of like what even is a miracle.
Right. Yeah.
What is it?
The defining of it was kind of how I started the slides, because that's big. And then a huge portion of it is just examples. And then trying to kind of push from Old Testament examples to New Testament examples to, okay, what now? What would examples be now? The Bible's full of it, but defining it on its own there have been hours-long debates on just that topic on its own. So I think it'll be interesting. I hope at least a few people show up, because I'm curious what opinions are on it. It's very broad. I feel like each individual miracle.
Next Wednesday we're doing. Oh, go ahead.
No. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say next Sunday we're doing Genesis 48,
47, and 48.
Because the Trinity's referenced in 48, and I always like hearing that.
No, shoot, I lied. I'm sorry. 46 and 47. I'll prep for 48 too, though, and if we get to it, no, we probably won't. I'll prep for it anyways. But 46 and 47 will be next week. Sorry, I misspoke. We're doing 44 and 45 today. So 46, 47. So you'd be 2 weeks out for that. You said the Trinity is specifically spoke of it or in it?
I mean, I think so. I don't know if everyone would agree.
What verse?
But 15 and 16.
So that would be the blessed Joseph and said, okay, let me try to get back up here. So 14, Israel stretched out his hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh. How do you say his name, Ghost? Manasseh. Crossing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn, and he blessed Joseph and said, the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the boys, and in them let my name be carried out, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth.
That's why it's contentious. I think that references the Trinity because he references it 3 times in a slightly different way. And one is an angel, so that's weird. And that kind of adds weight to the angel of the Lord being some kind of pre-incarnate Christ. But I don't know. I mean, no one knows for sure, but, you know.
No, of course, but it's the God. Huh. So break it, if you don't mind. Break it down, and like this, I'm attributing to God the Father, this to the Son, and this to the Holy Spirit.
Well, yeah. I mean, my Trinity model's kind of different traditionally anyway, but just the fact that there's 3 and one of them is an angel, we know that angels don't redeem, at least like in the traditional sense. So who else could it be talking about?
Yeah, fair.
And you could say the Holy Spirit is a sort of shepherd. So I don't know, man. I just think it's interesting.
No, it's definitely interesting. Yeah. There's like people will point to a lot of verses to try to justify the Trinity. I don't recall this ever being one of them. So I think it's very interesting. I'm going to think about it. I'll meditate on that. I definitely I see what you're getting at for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm curious to see what people maybe in chat or in the Discord think.
Yeah, I'm going to post it in Discord when we get off. I'm also very curious now how other people would interpret that. I definitely see what you're getting at for sure, but that's a new one for me.
It could just be that he's being redundant or poetic in some way, but it seems like if you say God twice, aren't you just going to say God a third time instead of the angel who?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way to argue away that there's a differentiation there. I think you could try to argue away the first repetition, but yeah, it just doesn't logically follow. It's hard to rationalize all of that because you would.
Yeah. And also, like,
Hmm.
it would seem to be like, at least according to like the Pharisees and whatnot, it would seem to be almost blasphemous to say an angel can redeem. I think, right?
No, for sure. Yeah, especially like during this period.
Yeah, so that's the part that makes me scratch my head. Like, I just want it to make sense.
Yeah, it's an
I mean, it makes
interesting
sense to
point.
me from like a Christian framework, but I don't see how they make sense of it. Like, how do they explain it away?
No, right, from the Jewish perspective. It's kind of nonsensical. I so actually, have you looked into what word was used for angel by chance?
It's Malik,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting.
and the angel of the Lord is Malik Adonai.
Uh-huh.
So I think that was a pre-incarnate Christ. Uh, it makes sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into this a little bit. That's really interesting. There's a discrepancy there for sure.
I know the Jews thought that there were two powers in heaven for 1,000 years or something, and then they kind of changed that around. I want to say that the end of the second century, maybe, is when they changed that and made it a heresy. I could be wrong about the date, but I think it's around the end of the second century they made that a heresy.
Yeah, no, you're right. The timeline I'm not sure. That sounds right. But yeah, you know,
But I think they only made it a heresy as a response to Christianity, not because like it's like they swept it under the rug and tried to make everyone forget that they ever believed that.
yeah, I mean, it's got vibes of the same, like the reality that Jews, Israel specifically, believed in a lot of gods. It just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same thing. It wasn't held in the same regard. It didn't have the same meaning. But it's another thing they tried to sweep under the rug.
Yeah, it's like henotheism
Uh huh.
instead of monotheism.
Uh huh. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. This is really interesting. This is making me think. Yeah, I'm trying to destroy. Like I'm trying to break it apart, but it's difficult. You
I
could.
mean, I've read it in Hebrew and I've tried to like kind of explain it away or see if like rabbis can explain it away, but I've never found anything. I mean, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I've never found anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna look through some. I have a bunch of midrashes. I'm gonna try to look through them and see what like any commentary's been. I foresee them talking away the first repetition. The God before whom my father Abraham and Isaac walked, the God could just be saying like they do that a lot. I don't know. You do that a lot even in the New Testament. The God before whom, the God who had been, they repeat it once. The fact that then it changed though, I feel like it's very hard to talk away and to get away from. And then if you're going to change it there, is it not repetition prior? And
What
is
do
it
some of the like near angel, it has an annotation. What does that say? The N and the O.
okay, so it depends on the Bible. For this, we're getting references to, let me pull it up. So it's going to be dependent on translation. So something to just like be careful about. But it wants, the first reference is 28:15. Behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave until I have done what I have promised. So that can't be for angel.
No, that doesn't follow.
We see the other. Oh, these aren't popping up for you guys. Then the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, and I said, here I am. That's 31:11 that they're bouncing you back to. They're also bouncing you to 31:13, which says, I am God, I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now arise, go out from this land and return to the land of your kindred. Then to 31:24, but God came to Laban and okay, in a dream by night, and said to him, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Exodus 23:20. Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. I'd have to pull them all up separately, because the problem and why I don't ever bring these up is because they will attach it to a phrase, and then oftentimes when you check, the phrase is wrong because the core of the source was from a different translation. So like half of these have the word angel in them, or the angel, and half of them don't. It's 4 and 4.
Well, what would it be replaced with?
I don't know. That's why I'd have to pull them all up separately and probably cross a few different translations, because I don't even see contextually how it would make sense. Angel's a very specific term.
Yeah, no kidding.
Unless actually 28:15. Let me see. Let me broaden here. It could have been before or after. So is he talking to yeah, there it is. Okay. So the first one they gave was 28:15, and 15 is just, it's incorrect. When you open it up, 12 through 18, you have references to angels. So it's where the same terminology was used, is all that it is. It's just not always accurate, which is why it's always accurate. It's not always accurate in the translation that you're using, which is ridiculous, but it's always been like that. But angels do appear here before. So, and behold, the angel of God, or angels of God, were ascending and descending on it. This was one of Jacob's dreams when he left Beersheba and went towards Haran. So I guess you'd have to take it with a grain of salt, but for you to try to work through the theory, should you rely on this translator, you'd have to go to all these verses and then see if your theory of the angel still lines up.
So when you're talking translations, I mean, you're talking English translations, right? Or are you talking like Masoretic Septuagint kind of differences?
It's both. The problem that I've found in the past is that they'll reference you to a verse, like here, where it's referencing me to 5 verses. And then I'll go to those verses in English, even broaden like I just did, and there will be nothing. And then sometimes I'll check a different translation, like an NIV or NASB or something, and then I'll find it. But then other times, still nothing. And then when you go back to some of the really old, then you'll find it. I've just never found it to be reliable. So it's something I've never paid attention to. The hood notes have always been kind of a dead end, at least consistency-wise. But
like, as far as, like, take the top 10 English translations.
Mm-hmm.
In verse 16, wouldn't they all be referencing the angel, or do you think, I'm going to look it up, I haven't actually done that, but do you think there would be a different?
I think sometimes there are, not I think, there sometimes are, which is the headache of the English stuff, is that like oftentimes that, you mean the Hebrew would be different and the English word would be the same?
No, I just mean, like, if you looked it up in that's what I mean. Like, if you looked up the original, not the original manuscript, but the oldest manuscript,
yeah,
would it be messenger? Would it be malak? Or would it be some other, like, is this an English person inserting angel where it doesn't belong, or you know what
Off,
I'm saying?
yeah, oftentimes, which is why
Okay.
it's always for me it's always grain of salt. And then anything that's
Well,
super
David brought up
important.
an interesting point, that King David said, "The Lord is my shepherd." Where was he getting that idea from?
I believe David had this verse in mind. Yeah, that's also a good point. So that then it would be aggregate every mention like that, because I guarantee there's more than just that. And then look on a timeline and see what would make sense. I mean, obviously nobody had any of this. Really, we have no real reason to believe anybody had any of this in the early stages of the timeline. So yeah, I think that would be a super valid point. The Lord is my shepherd would be another one like you would look at with interest for sure. But I would immediately wonder how many times was something like that uttered, because that's probably not the only example, and there's probably more. And then when aggregated with this, like you can start to put together a theory. But the thing that I would do with this one, I just put them in the YouTube chat. All the verses other than the Exodus one that's obvious were all out of Genesis. And that is what this translation is providing for where the same term was used. So then it's a matter of, is this angel something specific? Is that what you think? Or is this a reference that is also in all of these other places? In 28 and 31 and 13 and 24, and then in Exodus 23. Because they're the same word in Hebrew was used for all of them. So are all of those references to Jesus? Or
Well, I mean,
was
for
Jesus
me,
referenced
it's
here?
like if the word, okay, so like say the word angel is used, that's fine. If it said something like, "And the angel who gave me food and sat down and had a conversation with me," but it says the angel who redeemed, so like that quality makes it inherently different than like a different generic angel climbing ladders, etc.
Sure, but I guess for sure. But I wonder if any of the other ones, if any of them have a similar context. I don't know off the top of my head. The one that I did look up was the first one, and I don't see it. But I'm curious because that's something I probably wouldn't have noticed that without it being pointed out, if I'm being honest. So I wonder if any of the other references out of Genesis or Exodus, if they have any context that kind of supports your theory more, is what I'm wondering. And then my other question is, there's no way in hell that these are the only references to angels. So and this is why I don't like what the Bibles do this, because it's giving you Genesis and then it's giving you one verse out of Exodus as if that's all there is. And that's not all there is. So I'm wondering, like, bigger picture, I'm wondering if you can find more context like this with mention of Redeemer or other descriptions that would fit kind of the Messiah character. I'm curious of that. This has just got me thinking, and now like I wonder how broad this goes. I wonder what other examples are, because I bet you if that's what it is, there probably are more. Like David's,
There has to
the
be.
Lord is my shepherd. I would guess, dude. And now like I'd be on a mission. I'm curious as hell. So I'm gonna look at some of it for sure. Even if it's a dead end, it's interesting. It's interesting, and it's very unlikely that something this specific, using specifically the word redeemer, would just dead end there. There's let me drop these in here too in case you or anybody else looks. For redeemer, they're giving some as well. And just like take them with a grain of salt, because they're always incomplete, but it's something to at least take a look at. And they've got quite a few for this. So then I'd wonder if any of them are similar contextually to this. I'd be very curious.
I've
Then
looked at like a spattering of them, but I haven't like done a full exhaustive study of it.
I think you'll end up finding stuff. I
Yeah.
would be surprised now. All right, there's all of them for Redeemer. So the first list I did was for the angels, just out of the Bible that I'm using, but at least like it's somewhere to start. And then the second is for redeemed. Yeah, I'd be surprised if you didn't. There's got to be at least something that is kind of like confirmation for it, because that is just really odd. I've never really
Well, this
thought
is
about
going to
that.
be what I look up before bed because oftentimes I can kind of do that and it'll be fresh in my mind and maybe I'll get some insight. I don't know.
Yeah, take notes. I'd love to look through it. I'm gonna try to do some searching around too. That's red flag. Like staring at it. I'm very curious. If God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost are all three the same, who's sitting on the right side of God's throne?
First of all, I don't think they are the same. I think God is kind of like a corporation. And I think sitting at the right hand is a way of saying the active agent or the power that carries out the order. That's just like an old idiom for the one who does things, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's for the most part, yeah. When was did we did the Trinity recently, didn't we? Or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah, I think it kind of went off the rails, like because it takes so long to get into it, and people are just talking, you know. So
Yeah, we'll revisit that at some point. But yeah, I'm with you. More or less, the same concept for sure.
it's super oversimplified what I said about an active agent and the power, but I
Yeah,
mean
but
that's how they spoke.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, we still say that. We still say my right hand man. What does that mean?
yeah. It's the
The
same thing.
same thing.
It's the same thing for sure. Yeah, Leon, if you come to Discord, I'm sure you'll get a deeper. I would at least type you something else for that, but I have a very similar view as Ghost for sure, and especially from past conversations, I feel like we see it mostly the same, different terms, same concept. It's a good question though. It's a valid question.
Yeah, it is because it's like it's a super hard concept to grasp, like for me and for everyone.
Yeah, it's super tough. It's super tough, and then some of the history of the Trinity is really interesting when it became popular and whatnot. Maybe the next time we do it, we get into like some of the history of when it kind of became more of a thing, because there are early mentions of it and kind of like some of the early, even like early philosophers who had understood the concept from some of the earlier theologians, but it didn't really become like a well-defined addition to Christianity at large until like later, which is interesting. It's a very interesting topic. It's a very deep topic, and like you said, I think it's a very difficult one to do in an hour. It's like the introduction is like an hour. I've listened to hours and hours and hours and hours of people debating about the Trinity. It's like a bottomless pit. But there's a
It
lot there.
is. It's fun to talk about, but like I doubt we'll ever kind of just arrive at a, oh, okay, we all agree.
No, yeah, it's Jesus Christ. No way. I don't think Christians will ever agree on anything. The longer I spend time on Twitter specifically, the more I'm like, there's no hope. There's no hope. We're
Yeah.
a lost society. But it's interesting. It's good conversation for sure. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go look at this because now my brain is just reeling on this. So I'm gonna go look into some of this stuff for any of you who are still here and curious. 15 through 17. So really just 15 and 16. Two mentions of God in 15. One mention of the angel who has redeemed me from all evil. Bless the boys. Curious about whether this has Trinity, as the kids would say, vibes to it. And I put a bunch of verses to look at in the chat. The first are Genesis and then an Exodus, and then the rest are defined based on where you can find them. But I want to go look at this now. So I'm going to head out and I'm going to go check this out. And Tuesday, if you're around, we're still going to do the topic thing, and we're doing miracles, which is another bottomless pit. So we'll try to actually accomplish something, but we will see. And then Thursday is normal. All is good.
I'm gonna ask ChatGPT.
Oh, yes, way to go. Ask ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini the same exact question. It's very interesting to see them all work. But yeah, for sure. I use it for everything, dude. especially if you're trying to aggregate data. Like you want to find this word, how many times it's used. Just know it's not 100%. Like you got to play with it sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But it's wildly helpful. It's incredible. Scary, incredible. Graves, yay.
All right.
All
Take
right.
it easy.
Yeah, take it easy.
Love
dude.
you guys.
Love you guys. Have a good night. Graves, good to see you. Super late as F. Well, Tuesday. Come Tuesday, Graves. Tuesday, Miracles. Thursday, Book of Giants. Good woo-woo stuff, as Ghost put it. 99. Love you guys. Good luck at work tomorrow. And Leon, come to Discord. I want to hear about the dream, and I would like to watch the video. You said you left the link somewhere, so hopefully it's on this video. I'll check when we let off. I love you, bye. David, thank you for being so positive. You are a shining light, my friend. Love y'all.